Good morning. We are being forced to confront the realities of systemic inequalities and racism in our nation and in our state, on top of the ongoing pain caused by the unprecedented pandemic, COVID-19. Nevertheless, people from across the nation have bravely spoken up to demand change. It will take sustained work by all of us to answer this call. As the state's Attorney General here in California, I'm going to speak up and take action the best I can. This moment demands it. The people of our state demand it. Because here in California, we aim to lead and push ahead. Our actions and reforms have to be meaningful. As my father, a former construction worker, used to say, if you want something to be permanent, you have to build a strong foundation. And that's what today's announcement is all about. We're pushing ahead with an effort to support and contribute to ongoing national and statewide conversations about how to bring about change to our criminal justice system. As part of that, we're proposing sweeping policy reforms, both as recommendations that can be acted upon immediately and as part of an effort to engage with legislators to improve our laws. Our proposals are based on experience here at the California Department of Justice, including through pattern or practice investigations and collaborative reform initiatives. These proposals, reforms are largely aimed at, one, improving use of force procedures, addressing issues around bias in policing, and increasing accountability and transparency. And they build on current and emerging research, best practices, national standards, and community expectations. First, in the area of use of force, we're calling for a series of reforms that draw from our previous recommendations made to the Sacramento Police Department and largely align with the current 8 Can't Wait nationwide campaign. We're urging law enforcement statewide to immediately develop and implement policies as appropriate to require peace officers to intervene to stop excessive or unnecessary force by another officer, to ban chokeholds, carotid restraints, and any body positioning intended to cut off the flow of oxygen or blood, to require de-escalation when possible before using force, to provide explicit guidance on proportionality, including through the potential adoption of a use of force matrix, to require verbal warning when feasible before using lethal or less lethal force, to prohibit shooting at or from a moving vehicle, providing only for exceptions that require such actions to end an imminent threat to human life, to require that deadly force be used only as a last resort when reasonable alternatives have been exhausted or are not feasible, and to discontinue bite and hold canine techniques in favor of circle and bark, where police dogs are trained and deployed to alert by circling and barking at a suspect until the handler takes control. That's not all we're announcing today. In addition to reforms on use of force, we're pushing ahead on significant plans to support or sponsor legislation that works to decertify police officers for serious misconduct, including provisions requiring law enforcement agencies to complete investigations even after a peace officer leaves that department. Expand reviews of law enforcement policies and practices by enhancing the California Department of Justice capability to review and proactively help law enforcement agencies across the state reform their policies and practices to align with community needs. To require policies and training on bias by proxy, which occurs when a person calls the police and makes false or ill-informed claims about the individuals they are biased against. Something we again recently saw in a highly publicized incident involving a woman in New York who blatantly threatened violence against a person of color through a call to the police. To place clear limits on crowd control techniques during protests or mass gatherings, including restrictions and guidance on the use of rubber bullets, tear gas, pepper spray, and batons. To forbid the use of pepper spray against children in juvenile detention, which can traumatize juveniles and undermine efforts to build trust. And to re-examine the role of police in addressing homelessness and mental health in our communities. There are crises out there, and we want to make sure that we're taking a close look at that, recognizing that a police officer is increasingly called upon these days as a first responder to engage with situations he or she may not generally be equipped or trained to handle, involving mental health crisis, or referrals for social services. These are serious, real proposals that will help make a difference. Make no mistake, the expectations are high, and we will fight vigorously to meet them. That's why we're urging local authorities across California and our state legislature to work with us in actively engaging in police reform. We cannot afford to ignore the realities faced by Black Americans and people of color in this nation and in our state. With Americans across the country standing up against injustice and racism, we have been called to reckon with the systemic failures that cause and allow police misconduct to perpetuate. Today's announcement is another call for change, building on current and ongoing work being done by the California Department of Justice, including a new reform and review effort to improve and strengthen the policies and practices of the Vallejo Police Department in light of numerous high-profile officer-involved shootings. Our work with the Sacramento Police Department, which was the launching point for many of these reforms today, and with more ahead in the coming weeks in our phase 2 of that report to Sacramento Police Department, with a pattern or practice investigation into the Kern County Sheriff's Office and the Bakersfield Police Department, as well a collaborative review initiative with the San Francisco Police Department, taken on because of the Trump administration's abdication of police reform efforts. It includes as well a historic desegregation agreement with the Sausalito Marin City School District, an ongoing independent review of the Los Angeles Police Department's records and policies regarding the use of the Cal Gang system, as well as work drafting new regulations to oversee that Cal Gang system statewide. It includes a settlement to curb inequities committed against students of color and students with disabilities at the Stockton Unified School District. Our work includes launching a unique dashboard on police officer stop data and our regular updates on the open justice system, a data-driven initiative that embraces transparency to strengthen trust, enhance government accountability, and improve public policy in the criminal justice system. And we're fighting to defend California's reformations of the felony murder rule. And we've been widely successful so far to date. We're pushing back against convictions where lawyers held extremely racial animus towards their client's racial group, protecting the right of those individuals to effective counsel. We're defending the right to habeas corpus protections for people on death row. We're fighting for bail reform and pushing back against excessive fees and penalties that people can't afford. And today I'm announcing that my office will send Department of Justice investigators down to Palmdale, California, to engage in the investigation of the hanging death of Robert Fuller on June 10th, 2020. We are doing all of this and much, much more. We have the experience, and we're going to take these lessons to help build a better criminal justice system for all Californians. At the California Department of Justice, we're committed to listening to the voices of our communities, families, citizens, and colleagues in law enforcement and the legislature, and stepping up and doing our part. We know that nothing can take away the pain our communities carry. But as we confront these dark times, we have to remember America is at its best when we come together to demand justice. We hope you will join us in this effort to make California a shining example of what can be done, and when we all work together, it can get done well.